Welcome to episode 173 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Paulie Campbell. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Paul Campbell. Paul, thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate your time. We were just chatting earlier, and being a business owner and training people in person, and it's a whole different game that people are not used to, and very different from the busyness of a regular job with erratic schedules and whatnot. So I really appreciate you making the time to chat with us today.
No, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate the invitation. And you prefer Dan or Daniel?
Whatever works. Either is good. Not many people call me Dan, but not bad.
All right, Daniel. Fair enough. No, thanks so much for getting me on. I know we've been playing some scheduling gymnastics here for the past couple of weeks. I was on a podcast the other week, and I'm glad we were able to finally connect.
For sure, man. I think that's going to be a good launching off point because scheduling and time management is a big impact on people's fitness, as we both know. So it'll be a good thing to chat about. But before that, can you just introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah. So Paul Campbell, I have my master's degree in nutritional science, bachelor's in business finance, and associates in marketing and sales. So kind of those, all three kind of play a role in where I'm at today. I opened a gym called The Bar in Montana City, Montana. Started out as a private training facility, and now we've opened to high-ticket membership options for our community. We recently added on about 1,600 square feet, 400 of that being new office space that a physical therapist has joined forces with me, Full Curl Physical Therapy with Dr. Cody Cooper, specializing in sports performance enhancement. And I have 3 other trainers working here, soon to bring on one more if all goes well with the interview process. And the gym's been open for a little bit over 3 years. Originally, it started me and my friend Andrew shared this space. He had a t-shirt company and supplement company out of half of it, and then I ran the gym out of the other half. And we both needed bigger boats, and so he got a place closer to his home. And this is like, I hit one stop sign on the way to my work, and it's Montana's pretty rural, but it's been such a blessing. The growth in the last 6 months has been absolutely incredible. It's been very stressful, good and bad stress, and like you talked about time management. It really kind of, as a coach, we talk a lot about time management with our clients, how to maybe create more efficiencies through our day-to-day. And a lot of times I find myself drinking the medicine that I'm, kind of encouraging or providing tips to my clients about, how to, maximize your efforts throughout the day to get the most out of them. I'm a retired professional bodybuilder. I retired after World Championships back in 2020. I had been competing actively for nearly 20 years, and I took a lot of the knowledge and skill set and discipline from my experience in that space and applied it to being a business owner. And as a result, it's been very fruitful, and it's been such a blessing to kind of reap some of those benefits. And it's, the community sport has been tremendous out here, and I couldn't do it without them. So, my hat's off to the community and my clients and my trainers' clients, everybody who's involved in the bar community has really made it what it is today, and we would not be here without them. So, looking on into the next year, looking to forge forward and hopefully create some new growth and opportunities, and deciding how big does the bar want to get.
Well, congratulations on all the success. I mean, it is a very difficult thing to do. I think people don't really understand it. It's just a gym, and I think in essence, like, a gym is a very simple business as far as, like, there's not a lot of, like, complexities and production and manufacturing and supply chain. Like, it's relatively simple compared to some other businesses, but you're dealing with people and emotions and human beings, and these things are kind of make it more difficult to grow in that community aspect that you mentioned about, which leads me to thinking or asking, was there any thought in the name of your gym that calling it The Bar, where it's kind of the meme of people can hang out at the bar, but it's not like a drinking bar, it's a lifting bar?
So kind of a funny little story here. So I kind of wanted it to be a pun on words. I didn't want anything like, I wanted something that it's interesting. So my background is in professional bodybuilding. I played Division I rugby. That's also something I didn't mention, but I wanted to kind of remove the stereotype. I wanted to remove the barrier just simply from the name within my business, my organization. And so I just thought of something really simple. I didn't want to think of something too complex. I wanted a place that my goal is when people walk in here, they go, "Holy shit, that's a fucking cool gym." And that is the response I'm getting. I have all walks of life in here. So when people walk in, I want them, whether it's their first time stepping into a gym or if they're a competitive athlete in any capacity, I want them to feel at home. Right. And so that's really what I wanted to accomplish with not only the name, but the environment. And this is a little bit of a humble brag, but there is no gym like my gym in this area, in the greater Helena area. I'll go out. I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit is the equipment selection, but nobody's got the equipment I have. I selfishly do think my equipment is the best because most gyms have the same fucking linear equipment, and this is not to discredit those gyms. There's a lot of options in this community and no discredit to any of those. I think they do a wonderful job. I just wanted to be different. I didn't want to open something that was just like every other gym because I'm not like everybody else. I don't want it to be a bodybuilding gym where people walk in and it's a bunch of meatheads. I didn't want it to be a Curves or a Planet Fitness. And again, not to discredit these business models. It's not the look. That's not the feel. That's not the culture that I was looking to strive for. I want to attract people that, essentially pay a premium ticket to reach their goals. And that's exactly what we're doing. And so kind of going back to the funny story about the bar, I actually have had about a half a dozen people since I've been open walk in thinking this was a drinking establishment. And it was kind of funny when that happened. I chuckled the first time and then it started happening again and again. So I was telling my buddy John about this and John texted me. He's like, I'm going to open a building and a facility called the gym right next to you and I'm going to serve alcohol. And that was kind of a funny tap house or brew house or something like that. But that was kind of a funny dialogue back and forth between us. I think it would work really well, but at any rate, yeah, I wanted it to be simple. I didn't want to put too much thought into the name because at the end of the day, it's like, the name is not going to make or break your business. It's simply a name. And I think it's more importantly, the individual, the brand, the people, the reputation, those things are what's going to drive your success and continued success. So.
Yeah, agreed. So a lot of these things all tie in with the equipment selection, the community that you're building, time management, because I think to sum it all up, it's about cultivating your environment to set yourself up for success. That even includes the amount of money that you're paying for a service, right? I'd imagine that people who spend more money on a gym membership get better results than people who spend money on the cheapest, lowest, like Planet Fitness style gym membership. And again, nothing wrong with Planet Fitness. I actually went to one for the first time a couple months ago. I was very impressed. It was way better than I thought it was. But regardless, you're the amount of money that you invest in something is loosely tied at least to the amount of effort that you're going to put into it. So given all of that kind of stuff, you through yourself building the business and growing it over the last several years, but having retired from professional bodybuilding, what strategies have you used in your own life to make sure that you're still staying top of your game and, getting your nutrition in and just kind of doing all the things that we all talk about? Maybe not to the level that you were, but still staying on top of things, not letting yourself go.
Yeah. So I think, I retired for a variety of reasons that we don't need to get into today. Primarily, it wasn't serving me anymore. I competed at the lowest level as an amateur and the highest level as a professional. I was very competitive. It wasn't serving me anymore. And it ultimately, I think, was more of a distraction in terms of you can do a lot of things, but you won't do them well. Mm-hmm. And, I've really just wanted to kind of break away from, if it's a maybe, it's a no. And for me, that's, when I got asked to open a gym, it was a hell yes type of a deal. My buddy asked me if I wanted to do that. And I'm, would I be interested? I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. No big deal. I was kind of in a career path with a healthcare clinic as one of the wellness staff. And I'd been there for 6 years and really enjoyed what I was doing, but it wasn't challenging anymore. And there was kind of a glass ceiling in terms of autonomy and things that just, it was time for me to move on. And so kind of transitioning away from bodybuilding in my previous career, there's a lot of semantics going back and forth about, do you have to be ripped and be like, is being ripped a prerequisite to being a coach? And the answer is no, but you do have to walk the walk. And that looks different from everybody's lens, perhaps, right? I've seen some incredible trainers that you look at them and they look like everyday, I don't want to say Joe Schmoes, but they just look like an everyday individual. They don't look super shredded. They don't look like they don't take care of themselves. They look like normal human beings. If that could be a perception that people gather from looking at somebody. And, but I've also had experiences with some of the most impressive physiques that fucking suck at coaching. And, there's not a one size fit all, but I've actually had more experiences with people that are like diced to the socks, that are in really good shape, that have no fucking clue what they're talking about, because I think a lot of times they confuse, correlation with causation. And they don't know how to test theories. They don't know how to, they don't have enough subjective data, to kind of do their own like human control trials within their coaching, umbrella, so to speak. So I tend not to look at the human being and their physical appearance, too much, right? We don't judge a book by its cover. And I think that's very true. I think we look at, and another thing is titles. Like, being a professional bodybuilder, it's great, but that's not a selling point for me. And I don't want people to train with me because I'm a professional bodybuilder. I want people to train with me because I make them better at what they want to do. Like, that's why people hire me. I don't give a shit how many championships you've won. That's irrelevant in terms of skill set. It has zero merit on skill set. Yeah. And so kind of shifting back to, I think kind of the question matter is, I still need to walk the walk. And, my lifestyle does not align with being super lean all year round. And my performance suffers, my coaching suffers, everything suffers when I start to get to a certain threshold with my physical appearance, because I'm restricting in areas, and it doesn't allow me to give back in other areas. So, I've transitioned out. I'm doing more endurance-like sports. Like mountain biking is a huge, huge hobby of mine. I've got 4 mountain bikes. I've spent more money on bikes than people probably have in cars. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm running a half marathon in Missoula at the end of June. So I'm trying hard things in a different capacity, like something that, like I was mentioning, bodybuilding isn't giving me anything that I haven't already received. There's nothing more I can possibly get from it than I already have in my 20 years. So I want to try hard things in a different capacity, because I do work with a lot of endurance athletes, and I need to be able to kind of better relate to those athletes. And straight up bodybuilders have no relation to endurance athletes because they're completely polar opposite. In most cases, for not only from a training standpoint, but also from a nourishment standpoint, right? And just, identifying, is it feasible to mid-season for an endurance athlete to try to lose weight? The answer is probably not, right? You should have done that in the off season, or taken some time off, and not put that pressure on yourself. So I feel like this is a great space in general, just to hold me accountable. Yeah. Right. Like I've always had I was overweight as a kid. Even though my parents would disagree and people would disagree. No, in my eyes, I was overweight. I wasn't athletic. I never lifted. And so, that was kind of a motivation, the initial spark, I should say, that drove the discipline that I have today. And so I just really think that it's important for my feet to be held to the fire. And this is a great space. Like being in this space, it's almost like a forced sense of obligation to take care of yourself. That doesn't mean that coaches don't have struggles. This doesn't mean that weekends aren't difficult for me. This doesn't mean that I don't have an occasional alcoholic beverage. But it's finding ways and trying new things and finding ways that you can relate to your client base, right? And attracting new clients as well.
So do you think that having these other sports or something to maybe not necessarily compete in, but compete against yourself in, is something that really kind of like helps you stick to it. I'd imagine that, you know, you're running a gym and you like to do these things and you enjoy the fitness lifestyle. It's part of who you are now. So I can't imagine you'd like slip so far if you just stopped doing all those things. But coming from a competitive background, rugby, bodybuilding, there was always something to train for rather than just training like, you know, to feel good and feel better. Like that's cool, but it's not always like the biggest motivation of things to train for, especially you're at a point in your life where you're not trying to make, you know, you don't have, you know, 40 pounds to lose to greatly improve your health or your general day-to-day life. Like you don't have those kind of things. So in general, it's like, yeah, you know, you probably let a few training sessions slip and your life probably wouldn't change that much, like realistically, but having a sport to compete in or participate in and using that as part of your professional development, let's say, in relating to your clients, because like you said, you know, most clients are not looking to compete in professional bodybuilding unless you're running that type of gym, which you're not. And, you know, most people listening to this podcast are not looking to compete in professional bodybuilding. And if you are, I mean, you're listening to the wrong podcast. It's not the one for you, but, and there's nothing wrong with that. But having something to aim for and kind of like goal setting appropriately, I think is a thing that a lot of people don't really take into consideration seriously enough. They just, I want to lose weight, I want to look better, but that's almost like not strong enough because it's too general.
It's a shitty goal. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like it's okay to look better and lose weight, but it's so subjective. And that's in part why I got out of bodybuilding. It's like, why do I give a fuck what a panel of judges cares what I look like on that day? Because I don't look like that 99.999% of the year. It's that 2 to 5 minutes you're on stage. And I just got tired of it because the judging is fucking inconsistent. And I'm going to go on the record here, and this is something I struggled with, is body dysmorphia and insecurity. Competitive physique athletes, male, female, are some of the most insecure people in the world because of the sport they're in. It's because of the way they've been conditioned, because they care about what other people think about how they look. But if anybody else outside of that judging panel or somebody they trust sheds a light of their opinion on their physique, they fucking lose their mind, right? And then also there's this perception, you know, people who compete or whatever, the dogmatic judgmental approach to general population is such a fucking turnoff. It's terrible. You know, once you've competed and once you get in stage condition shape, like at a competitive high level, like I've competed at, your perception of in shape changes forever, right? And so it's just an interesting space because there's people think it's this black and white. Oh, yeah, you know, it's just like Highland Games. That's something I'm competing in again this year. I've competed in a couple years, done two different events 2 years ago, and this year I'm planning to do 3. You either did it or you didn't do it. That's how you're measured. It's not based on somebody's opinion. There's no politics involved. There's no you know, yo-yo dieting. Bodybuilding is yo-yo dieting. No matter what way you slice it, you're shedding body fat to get unsustainably lean for a short period of time, and then you're adding calories back in to add muscle, and you do that constantly. It's a form of yo-yo dieting. It's what it is. Yeah.
Well, I think that, just to interject there for a second, I think that a lot of people need to, if anyone looks at bodybuilders as like, hey, this is what you should be doing. Like, you know, my favorite bodybuilder that I follow online, whether they're like one of the big pros or not, that is a sport. And we need to separate that sport of bodybuilding, which is not necessarily healthy or like a way to live and no one does it for forever, from regular fitness and general life. It's the same way you don't train like your favorite basketball player, like your favorite football player, like your favorite track athlete. Like you don't do those things because they're training for a sport. Bodybuilders are training and eating for their sport, and that's fine and good, whatever, for them, but that's not a way to live one's life.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier in kind of your statement and question about, you know, my life doesn't fall apart if I miss a workout session. You're absolutely right. This doesn't mean that I create all these reasons or excuses not to work out, but I, on average right now, train 3 days a week from a resistance training standpoint, and I've probably lost 0 muscle mass as a result because I've got so many years under my belt. And I know how to train effectively, and I have an excellent coach out of Billings, Ryan Jory. I always butcher his last name. It's Jory. And my quality of life since retiring has improved tenfold. It's incredible. I can experience things. You know, I had 3 slices of homemade pizza yesterday. You know, a couple hours before my workout, I had a fucking just a killer workout as a result of it. So I don't put this pressure on myself, I'll end there because I'll go down a rabbit hole if I start to talk about other topics that probably aren't really necessarily relative to the subject that.
Fair enough. So your background in training for bodybuilding and previous to that training in rugby is very athletic, performance sport based training. Yep. How difficult was it, and what different things do you do now for yourself and for your clients who are not athletes? Because training an athlete is different than training a Gen Pop person. So what are some of the differences that you use, and what are some of the similarities that you kind of bring across both of those fields?
So the similarities would be frequency and, rest time. And I was actually thinking about a post the other day talking about, if you look at all the top athletes in the world in any sport, the one thing they have in common is they resistance train. Now, this is not suggesting that if you resistance train, you're going to be a top athlete in the world, but it does hold some value to the importance of resistance training. Now, we boil it down to frequency. So we look at, is it general population or is it, a sport-specific athlete? I train probably more athletes than I do Gen Pop right now, which is actually quite been a pleasant transition. Not that I don't like one more than the other. But with general population, full body workouts are amazing. Most general population people struggle with time. And time management and, goal setting. So it's like we can get you 80% of the way there lifting 2 to 3 days a week doing full body work, or maybe two, one lower, one upper, one full, or whatever, different splits that you're hitting those tissues multiple times a week with intensity. And that allows plenty of time for recovery, nourishment, and you can spend time, especially as Gen Pop, giving that client time back in their life, where they may have been training 5 or 6 or even 7 days a week, which is just not necessary to focus on the aspect of the equation that most of the Gen Pop don't focus on. And that's, figuring a way to nourish your body that responds the way you want it to. Right. And so kind of on the flip side of that, we look at athletes, the first questions I ask every athlete that walks in for a session: what did you do yesterday? Did you do anything today, or do you have any practices coming up? What are you doing tomorrow? Because that sets the framework for the workout. I train a lot of athletes on game day or the day before game day. Do you think I'm going to run them through max effort work? No. Do you think I'm going to do maybe a little bit of dynamic work, really, really low volume, maybe moderate intensity with some mobility work involved? Probably. Do you think there's some psychological coaching going on, setting up goals for, key performance indicators that they want to focus on for the game that's upcoming? Those are the things we talk about. It's not only the physical preparation, it's the mental preparation. I don't even want to say I'm like a coach. I'm more of a mentor for those athletes because a lot of them are adolescents, which is wonderful because I was an adolescent at one point that had zero guidance as an athlete. I played high school sports. The coaching was terrible. I would say that there's, probably some room for improvement within the high school space when it comes to effectively making your athletes better, specifically not making them max out, which is the dumbest fucking thing you can do. They're not training to be powerlifters. They're training to be athletes. They're completely different energy systems. And so my goal is I'm trying to integrate myself to show, coach, mentor athletes that there is a more effective way to get the desired result. And it's the same way with general population. So it's basically kind of re-engineering a lot of misconceptions about what they need to do versus what they actually might benefit from. And a lot of times I'll be asking my athletes and Gen Pop to do things that are completely foreign to them, right? And when I hear them come back and they're setting new PRs, either on training day with their coaches or making, really good plays on the field or on the ice, or on the court, like that's the feedback I like to hear, right? It's not, oh, I'm down 2 pounds this week. I could give a shit about what your weight's doing. I want to know what the behaviors are like. That's just kind of like an afterthought. If you're doing the things that are necessary. You're doing the hard things, and doing the hard things doesn't mean doing more. Doing the hard things might be going from 6 days a week to 4 days a week, right? So imagine getting that time back in your day to, spend more time with family, or to prepare your food, or to get some extra sleep. That goes a long way. So I think if we can find a way to, as coaches, if we can find a way to,
it's cutting in and out, Paulie. I don't know if you can hear me. It's cutting in and
down,
out.
Perhaps maybe an unorthodox path to give them a little bit more time to focus on some of the key variables that are missing is extremely important.
All right, I think we're good now. It was cutting in and out so much. Can you hear me or no?
I can.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, I kind of missed what you said a little bit, but I got the gist of it, and hopefully that comes off in the recording. I think so. Afterwards, I'll take a look at that and try and stitch it together. If you hear this normally, then it worked. If not, then so be it. I'll do my best to stitch it together, but this distracted me so much. Are we still good? Can you hear me on time?
Yeah, we're
now?
still good. Yeah, so still good. So I'll circle back around to essentially, regardless of the population I'm working with or whatever coaches are working with right now, the objective is to engineer and lead them in a direction that gives them ultimately an opportunity to thrive in that space. And a lot of times it's giving them opportunities to have more time to focus on, areas like nutrition, to focus on maybe recovery, taking days off sleep, and to focus on other areas than just the gym and the kitchen. So maybe it's a social component, getting out and doing some team building or spending time with friends and family. Like all those things kind of are integrated into becoming a better athlete or a better individual from a Gen Pop standpoint. Because a lot of times I find people are trying to do way too much and they need to scale it back.
It comes back to one thing I say to clients often is let's keep the main goal the main goal. Like we can't have two things that are competing. Like don't tell me you want to max out your deadlift, but you're also trying to run a half marathon next weekend. Like those things are not the same. We can do both of them, but just not at the same time, right? And same thing with the athlete thing. Like we've got to get clear on the goals and then do the actions that are required to get there. Now, this is not anyone's fault, I don't think, and this is where the role of the trainer or the coach or the educator kind of comes into play. Is hey, you've heard these things, whether online or through friends or through whatever, and this is the thing that you think that you want to do, and I'm here to tell you that that is kind of correct, but here's maybe a better path. Here's a better way that we can do that thing to get at the goal that you are trying to aim for. And so we got to just steer people in that correct direction rather than, hey, just go out there and do the things because it feels good and because it because it's what your cousin's aunt whatever said. That's not really how it works, and that's where we step in.
Yeah, and you really need to trust your coach, assuming you have a coach that's credible and that can relate to you and that has, I'll say, the accolades in the field and the trenches, and they have a track record of being a good coach. That's where you need to trust your coach and lean into them. I think it really can get muddied if, your client and you start to ask 3 different coaches, you're going to get 3 different answers. Yeah. And then you're going to start to question the direction you're getting from your coach. So, remember, you hired a coach for a reason, and I think it's okay to ask questions about why you're doing the things you're doing. I think that's important. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's appropriate or a good use of your time to reach out to other coaches and ask them. And I have people do that. I have people do that who are not only in sports, but gen population and bodybuilding. Like, hey, my coach is having me do this. It's well, I don't fucking know where you started from, and you didn't hire me. Yeah. So, based on what you're telling me, this is not what I would have you do, but I don't know where you started. I don't know what you've done. I'm not your coach. So you just, come talk to me when you're done with that coach. If that's of interest to you, but don't start to create this mind fuckery because you're asking, all the, and you have 12 hands in the cookie jar and there's 2 cookies. Of course there's going to be problems. Yeah. Right.
So. And for people who are, trying to figure out this information on their own. The self kind of comparison to this is that when you see something online, or you see some information that maybe it seems competing with or against or opposite to what you're currently doing, you have to always consider the full context of that thing, because there's very few things that are just like universally black and white in fitness and nutrition, that like this is always right and this is always wrong. It doesn't really exist. And so something may be kind of right given a certain condition, and something may be kind of wrong given a certain condition. But, so you have to look at things like, hey, just because this is opposite to what I'm doing, it doesn't make it wrong, and doesn't make it right either. You really need to kind of consider the whole picture, and this is where you get to, or should be asking more questions and things like this. But
well, and that's a good point, and this is where I get frustrated with the social media space. I hate social media. I'll go on record and say it.
Me too.
I get clients from it. Jonathan Goodman said it best. People are like, and this is not to discredit people who are online that have built successful quality coaching platforms and that are not charlatans. And, it's in my opinion, people are stepping over dollars to make pennies on the online space. Particularly people are sold the idea that you can make a lot of money as an online coach. I've done it. I've had a very lucrative career online. I've had opportunities that have worked out really well. But I've also been in the space for 20 years. This isn't me going and taking a NASM test, after studying for a couple of months, which is a great starting point, and then trying to launch an online platform to millions of people who are being sold to by millions of people. Social media is all ads anyway at this particular point, and people are trying to figure out algorithms and stuff. I'm conflicted because people love free shit online. Comment the word this and you'll get my free ebook. I think that's great, but most of those people aren't going to buy a fucking thing from you. Most of the people that like free shit, it looks like someone's Peloton bike that they bought 6 months ago. It's got clothes on it. They don't use it.
Yeah.
And that's just like, and maybe people disagree with me, but it's that people don't even look at the post. They just like, they don't even digest. They just like it because somebody else posted it, and it's like, there's no validation to it. It's like, oh, I like it because this person posted it. They didn't read the caption. They have no idea what it's about. They saved the post. They never see it again. They never use it again. It looks like a storage unit.
Yeah.
Most people are consumers, not doers. And I'm actually probably going to make a tweet about that today. I'm going to ruffle some feathers. And if you're listening to this, go look at your saved. Like, if you want to do this on your own, and that's really where this started from. If you don't want to hire a coach because you financially cannot afford it, work harder, get a side hustle. If you really want to coach, you'll find a way to do it. Because I've been there before, years and years ago. But you could probably go on social media for a week and piece together something that will work really well for you. But that's the difference, is the doing part, the action. Not the saving the post and referring to it later just as a refresher and not doing it. And I feel like so many people do that. They're just robotic about it. They go look at their favorite people on Instagram, their motivational posts, whatever, which I think is fine. I think that can provide some value, but there's no value in not doing anything. Yep. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And a lot of people find value in like just soaking up. Like if you have time as an issue, show me your phone screen time and I'll tell you where your time is going.
Yeah.
Type of a mentality. And again, if you're not seeing results, it's because it looks like the Peloton bike that somebody bought January 1 to get in shape. There's fucking clothes hanging off of it in the back room. It's never used. You have to do hard things to get the things that you want. I don't care if it's in relationships. I don't care if it's in fitness, health, finance, social circles. Like, you have to make hard decisions. You have to do hard things to get the things that you haven't been able to get. You have to do those things.
Yeah.
Saving a post is not doing. Looking at a post is not doing. Liking is not doing. Doing is doing. So, yeah. Anyways.
Amen. No, well said. Well said. I mean, I think like information is not the problem anymore. All the coaches are like, we're the ones putting out the information for free, and also we know that like we're not gatekeeping information. We are the ones putting it out there. Like, here is all the stuff to do. You don't need to hire me. I just told you everything that you need to do, to like a 98 percentile.
You hire a coach.
You hire a coach for structure and accountability.
Yep.
Exactly.
And hopefully we don't freeze again here. I'm going to wait a second for this to.
Exactly. Apologies, guys. This is the things that that happens from time to time. Okay, we're close enough, guys. I'm gonna try and stitch that together. I apologize, but as this thing comes back, Paulie, and again, just in the interest of time, and in case we do get disconnected here, can you talk about some of the equipment that you do have in your gym? How to choose exercise equipment appropriately, intelligently, and how to even like use or adjust equipment to your own structure, a taller person, a shorter person, and how to set things up, for your best results with a given machine.
Yeah, so I think going back to when I opened the gym, I had very limited square footage. I think I had like 1,500 square feet, 1,300 of active gym space. So I knew turf was going to be part of it, right? Again, I didn't want a bunch of linear equipment in here. There's 12 other gyms in the area that have linear equipment. Go to one of those gyms, don't care. So I set up turf because turf can serve athletes. It can serve general population.
Mm-hmm.
So both. I bought a big Rogue squat rack with trolley arms. I bought a set of dumbbells, 5 to 100 pounds. Still what I have in here. I'm not going to get 150 pound dumbbells. There's other things I can do to load those muscles with landmines, all that kind of stuff that I have in here, without taking up space of 110 to 150 pound dumbbells. Same thing with pressing, rowing, you name it. So some of the equipment I purchased first was like the turf. I had a couple sleds. I bought a Squat Max machine, which is an excellent piece of equipment. I can take somebody through a workout for an entire, I'll say 45 minutes. That's after warm up with cool down on that piece of equipment. We can do chest, back, arms, legs, posterior. It doesn't matter. I've done it before. So I wanted stuff that was very universal in terms of the best bang for the buck. I bought a huge Prime commercial cable machine that has two towers with 2 lat pull down stations. Like, again, I wanted to get the most bang for my buck for my space. And so I didn't get like plate loaded machines that were like for one exercise only. With the exception of like a hip thruster. The one that I purchased was, the footprint was relatively small and it made sense. So kind of fast forward as, my business started to take off. And just kind of a side note, like I pay for all of my stuff out of pocket. I run a debt-free business. That's just the way I function. It takes all the stress off of me as a business owner to try to find a way to make more money, unnecessarily to pay for equipment. So I've got, about 250 grand worth of equipment in my gym now, which has been awesome. It hasn't happened in once, but I've had opportunities to snag some pieces of equipment along the way. And so then I started to look at, when I took over the whole space, like just kind of redeveloping this whole space. So now I have, 1,200 square feet of turf, right? It's a whole separate section. I have TRX bands. Anybody can use TRX bands, athletes, general population. I've got like 2 squat racks, 3 landmine attachments, 2 cable towers, 2 more that are coming from Rogers Athletics. And I will say unequivocally that Rogers Athletics has been the best company to deal with, and their equipment is fucking incredible. I have Arsenal Strength. I've got their lateral raise machine, because again, it might be touted as like, the delt builder for bodybuilders, but general population, it takes the guesswork of how to do a lateral raise movement.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very small footprint, very economical, very expensive, but economical in a space standpoint. I've got their pendulum squat. Again, works for bodybuilders, works for athletes, works for general population. And I have clients, 90% of my clients can use that piece of equipment, but I have alternatives. I have a leg curl leg extension by Nautilus. It's the same. It's one piece of equipment. Again, mm-hmm. I don't want 2 pieces of equipment taking up that much space. Let's see. I've got so much equipment in here. Dynamic fitness. out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I have their glute ham fall, which is assisted, so you can put weight on it to counterbalance your weight. That was a piece of equipment that I was privy to by Billy McLean from Bozeman, who owns Prime Physiotherapy. It's like a 18,000 square foot facility. Awesome human being, awesome business, great mentor of mine. He was gracious enough to recommend that to me. I ordered it. I wish I would have ordered 2. I might order 2 depending on, space limitations. Bilateral lat pull downs. I have, originally when I opened, I bought a pre-core chest press, but it was a multi-press, so I could do a shoulder, incline, and flat press on it. It's selectorized, works wonderfully, works great for athletes, works great for general population. 3 movements in 1 piece of equipment. Awesome bang for your buck. 4 benches, of course. I've probably got 12 different bars. I've got a transformer bar. Transformer bar by Kabuki is incredible. There's 6 different squat variations that you can do with 1 bar. And, I think the days of like making people do a traditional barbell back squat, even athletes, it's not wrong, but there's more effective ways to train, especially, shoulder mobility can be an issue for clients. And that was my favorite purchase. It was very expensive for one bar, right? But my most favorite most favorite piece of squat equipment in here is the pendulum squat by Rogers Athletics. Now, Rogers Athletics and their pendulum line is, I think, specifically geared for athletes. I mean, that's what they cater to in that line. But I've got clients who are, a little heavier, that they're not going to fit in my selectorized leg press. I have one of those. It's by Tough Stuff. It's a plate loaded. You can do, a hack squat where you're laying all the way back on your back with the pads on your shoulders. You can sit up at, 3 or 4 different angles. The visceral area of some clients just doesn't allow for that for quality of range of motion. This Rogers squat, for those of you who go look it up, if you have a gym, highly recommend buying it. The footprint's not that big. The way it's set up, it forces the person to have a wonderful squat position throughout the entire range of motion. You can put a box underneath a client if they're just starting. So, if they're worried about falling, and their hands are forward and they're holding on. It's almost like a Hatfield squat. If you guys are familiar with that, your hands are supporting, typically by the squat rack. Well, you're actually holding on to the part of the machine that's designed to hold on to during that exercise. I've got 70-year-old individuals using that, and we're loading it appropriately, but they're able to get a full range of motion. Yes. We're able to strengthen their glutes because we're not able to get that lengthening and that shortening in the glute muscles doing other work. We're able to load it properly, right? We're able to stimulate that muscle more effectively to see lasting results. For athletes, we can do explosive work. We can do tempo work. We can do max effort work. We can do, hypertrophy work. Like it's incredible the amount of options with that piece of equipment. I have 5 of their plate loaded or 3 of their plate loaded pieces of equipment. I got 2 cable towers coming this month. They're behind on the shipping with that. The reverse glute ham by Rogers Athletics. Fucking incredible. One of the biggest complaints with a barbell hip thrust or a hip thrust machine is it's uncomfortable on the pelvic region for both males and females, especially if you're wearing a seatbelt. A lot of them are seatbelt secured. Yeah. The reverse glute ham is seatbelt secured, but instead of your hips moving up and down, you're basically moving down from your hips down. So it's an extension and flexion in your hip region, and your pelvis is staying still. So that's a huge benefit. I'm so blown away with all this new technology, all this new equipment that's been coming out. And I think we're going to freeze again. So I'm going to wait for this to clear up, Daniel.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is freezing there a little bit, but I mean, I think the take-home message is, and I'm just going to hope that we're on time with this, but whatever. I think the take-home message is this: if you're kind of like looking for home gym equipment, like space efficiency is the number one thing. So don't buy pieces of equipment that you can only do like maybe one thing on. Dumbbells, squat rack is great. Landmine is, I think, absolutely the most underrated home gym piece of equipment ever, because it's like a $15 attachment and you can do like so many different exercises that you wouldn't need big machines and stuff for, that you wouldn't have space for in your home gym. And then aside from that, when you have a little bit more space in a bigger gym facility, look at pieces of equipment where you can do multiple things and also fit that machine to what you need to do. Like, there are very few mandatory exercises. Like you mentioned, no one outside of a powerlifter needs to do a barbell back squat. Personally, I love it as an exercise, but I have clients who I don't use it for because it doesn't fit them well. And there are so many other exercises that we can do to get the same or similar kind of effect as a barbell back squat. And so don't be married to exercises, be married to like movement patterns and find things that work for you, and then go and do that. And that is difficult to do sometimes, but like, don't be afraid to navigate the gym and try new pieces of equipment and try new little variations and ask for help, because it's going to make a world of a difference for you.
Yeah. Kettlebells. We've got probably 30 kettlebells, 40 kettlebells. Bands are incredible bands. Everybody, I think, should have bands. They can really spice up an exercise. I've got 3 landmine attachments. I know you mentioned that. I have 2 really expensive Precor treadmills and then a rower and a bike. I think, again, after being in the commercial gym space for a lot of my career, I mean, if you want to get cardio in, go outside when it's nice. You can do some cardio in the winter inside, obviously, but, more things to go wrong with those electronics. They're very expensive to fix, very expensive things to do, to kind of maintain. And, so, and then again, if a piece of cardiovascular equipment is down, you end up having to wait for parts, so that's really why I like, the plate loaded equipment that I have on the gym floor, because there's not a lot of moving parts. There's bearings and you got to keep them greased and those types of things, which is pretty low maintenance. I've got, obviously some of the cable towers, they have cables and stuff on there, but pretty minimal maintenance. So I'm looking for things that can maximize efficiency in terms of space, and downtime. I will spend whatever kind of money I need to spend. My equipment is not cheap, at all. It's any piece of equipment in here is, I kind of told you how much I have in equipment in here, but if you're just starting, I think it's okay to kind of buy used. Like, you can find some pretty good deals on Marketplace. Sure. I think I bought a couple things used. I actually just bought yesterday. This was kind of an impulse purchase. I'm going to test it. If I don't like it, I'll get rid of it. But Legend Fitness has a really, really great line of equipment. But my coach actually sent it to me. He's in Billings, which is 4 hours away. It's a neck machine. It takes up a little bit more space than I'd like, but I think I bought it for $150. It's brand new. The piece of equipment was probably $1,500 new. And I bought it for one athlete in mind, Dylan Mossness. The kid is an absolute animal. I want to see him murder kids on the football field this year. He's up like 17 pounds in the last 4 months we've been together. So I actually texted him like, hey, I bought this for you. He doesn't even have a neck. But the importance of neck training is what I'm trying to get across. Whether you're a general population or an athlete, like, neck training is important. I do it. I've seen the benefits in terms of not only headache reduction, but strengthening your spine is absolutely important. There's no reason not to train your neck. You're not going to get a thick neck unless you're training for a thick neck, of course, but isometrics, things like that work. So at any rate, that was kind of an impulse purchase. It's a selector I stack, but we'll see how it works. If not, I'll just get rid of it.
Yeah, but I mean, these things, when you have more space and more availability and more need for them, then obviously they make sense. Most people, like, a neck machine is not, it's pretty low on the list of pieces of equipment that you're going to get in your home gym or in most other gyms, anyways. But,
you can use bands or plates for neck stuff in your home gym. You don't need
exactly. Well, listen, Paulie, I know you got to run. I know you got to get to a session. So thank you very much for being here. I apologize to you and apologize to anyone listening for the technical difficulties you had, but it is what it is. We can't control everything, but we do the best we can, and that's a good analogy for your fitness. Anyways, you can't control all the things, but do what you can, set yourself up for the best success, and then let the rest happen as it will. Paulie, is there any last message that you want to kind of leave people with and give your contact info? I'll put it in the show notes, but give us all that.
Yeah, if you have questions about, different gym equipment, what recommendations I have, if you're struggling between a couple pieces, limited space, message me. I can help you out. Any questions, fitness related, certainly feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'll do the best to get back to you in a timely manner, but I will get back to you. And lastly, I'm just going to say, do hard things. You don't get good shit by doing the easy stuff. And my tweet yesterday, it needs to be a hobby, not out of convenience. So do hard things, do them often, embrace the suck. Good things come from doing hard things. You find out what you're made of. So.
Love it, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate the message. I appreciate your time again. What's your social media handle?
It's gosh, I don't even know. It's Coach Paulie _Inc, I believe. So let me just double check.
That's right. I got it. Coach.Paulie _Inc. I'll put it in the show notes anyways, but that's what it was. I'm surprised I was able to find it that fast. That was impressive on my own end. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Paul, thanks so much, and congratulations on all the success thus far, and good luck in the coming soon future.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Always, man. Always. Give Paulie a follow. Check him out. Ask him questions if you have. Like, share, subscribe to the podcast. All those good things. Always helpful to spread the message. That's that. Go outside. Be a good person. See you next time.